Travis, which screen's right? They're different. I'm John Riley, Director of Mountain Bike Product Development, and I'm here to give you a first look at an exciting new electric mountain bike that'll hit the lineup in early 2021. It's called the E-Caliber. In our e-bike line today, aggressive trail riders can turn to the rail, and lighter trail riders and rugged commuters can turn to the Powerfly. What we notice is that there's a really big void between these high-powered, trail-oriented e-bikes and traditional cross-country mountain bikes. And there's not really a middle ground e-bike option for XC riders. That's where the new E-Caliber comes in. It's a lightweight electric mountain bike that rides and looks like a traditional cross-country bike. It's built for the massive underserved audience of XC riders who are looking for just a little help and advantage to allow them to do more of what they love. Unlike Rail or Powerfly FS, it's not the high-powered solution to carry you through whatever's in the way. Instead, it gives an experience closer to what XC riders know and want, with a less prominent assist that can extend the ride without taking away the physical and technical challenges. It's the best equalizer on the trail. So who's this bike for? So many people. Existing XC riders who want to push a little further or a little steeper, mountain bike veterans looking to extend their lifetime of riding, new riders who want a little nudge as they get into the sport, or those who want to ride with faster, fitter friends and need just a gentle boost to keep them up. This really does open up riding to a lot of new customers. And as you can see, the E-Caliber frame is modeled on the Super Caliber. It has the same integrated ISO strut with 60 millimeters of travel, but we bumped up the fork to 120 millimeters of travel on the E-Caliber. Just like the Super Caliber, it's fast and smooth on single track, with tons of traction when it's loose and sketchy. So let's talk about what's under the hood with the E-Caliber. Of all the electric mountain bikes in the line, E-Caliber looks the most like a traditional mountain bike. That's thanks to the Fazua system and a 250 watt-hour battery that's hidden in the down tube. It can assist up to 25 km/h or 20 miles per hour when it's on and gives zero drag when it's off. For climbs, tricky sections of trail, and long rides, you can seamlessly click on the motor. And when you turn it off, it'll ride just like your standard mountain bike. Plus, the entire system, including the motor, is easily removable. And when you take it out, you have a standard mountain bike. We saw a lot of riders customizing their Super Caliber in Project One. And good news, the E-Caliber will also be available in Project One. With a lot of high-powered electric bikes out there today, you get an experience that's super fun but pretty far from traditional riding. E-Caliber is closer to traditional XC riding. It's natural and familiar, but still has what you need to push your limits in both speed and distance. And that's exactly what a whole lot of riders are looking for. All right, hello everyone and welcome to the 2021 E-Caliber virtual launch. We're live from Waterloo, Wisconsin, and we're going to follow up on the informational video that you just saw with a lot more detail. We've got a lot of experts here that can go into more detail on the bike and the engineering of the bike, the spec of the bike, just a lot more detail, including even an athlete's perspective on the bike and a tester with all that. And the thing I want to talk about though is for questions. Okay, so for questions today, that's really important that you're logged in to YouTube through Google and putting your questions up there. And what we're going to do is at the end of this presentation, we're going to bring those questions in and our expert panel here will get to answering those questions for you. So that'll be at the end of the presentation, and we'll do that live and go through the list and get to all your questions as they come up. So I'm John Riley. I'm the Director of Mountain Bike Product Development. Again, I've got a lot of great people here to go through this bike, so let's go ahead and jump right in. With me today, I have Chris Drews, who's a Senior Product Manager for Trek, and in particular, the E-Caliber is his product. And he's responsible for all the spec and the design direction going into the project. So Chris, welcome to the virtual launch. I know the E-Caliber has been, a big project for you to bring to market. And I think one thing that we do want to discuss is really about who is the rider. I mean, we touched on it briefly with the video, but let's get your perspective. What was your idea with this bike with the rider?
Absolutely. If you look at the mountain bike EMTB market today, the vast majority of bikes are high-powered, heavy bikes. They're kind of unnatural feeling. They're good for some, but not for all. And we see and we know that there's a customer out there looking for something that's lighter weight, a little more efficient, a little more natural feeling, and that's what we were after. And so we basically took a look at our lightest weight platform, our Super Caliber that we launched a couple of years ago, and felt like it was a really natural fit for this type of product. Taking our lightest weight cross-country bike, lightest weight EMTB system out in the market, Fazua, and married the two together into a really cool package.
Yep, for sure. Now, but let's talk about the customer. So that's kind of how we got to the product. So what's the customer like? What are they going to get out of this product? And who is that customer?
Absolutely. So typically, you have on the high-powered side, you have a customer who's looking to, have that full-powered experience. They're not necessarily looking for an equalizer bike. They're looking for, an all-day adventure. With this E-Caliber, we're actually looking for an equalizer type bike, something that you might find you might ride with a group of faster young friends of yours, or you might be looking to ride a little faster or farther than you typically would on a weekend or weekday.
Right, so just a great lightweight package in an e-bike with just a bit of assist, opening it up to a different range of customers than our typical rail
Absolutely.
Customer product that we have in there. So, okay, that's great information, Chris. Let's talk about the bikes a bit, because you've done some really cool details on the spec to make this thing work really well with the Fazua system. Let's talk about that, and let's talk about the weight as well. So let's start with the weight. That's an important piece of that. How light could we get with this bike?
That's a really good point, John. At the heart of it is a lightweight carbon frame, but the complete package is 15.7 kilos.
Awesome.
For a complete bike with the Axis level. The awesome part about it is you can actually take that Fazua system out, replace it with an empty cover,
right.
Such as we have here,
yep.
And you can actually net out another 2.9 kilos. So you can end up with a very lightweight 12.8 kilo bike that you can either run with or without the Fazua system.
Right,
really
and what's cool about that too is there's storage, right? So you can actually put some stuff in there. You can use it like you would use on our traditional bikes with the down tube storage. So now you have that capability there, which is also really cool. So, all right, let's work down a little bit. How about geo? When we look at the geometry of the bike, we base this on the Super Caliber, but it's really not a Super Caliber. It's something different, right? We did something different so that the geometry would provide a little wider range for this bike. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. So, at the heart of it, as you said, is kind of the cross-country heritage geometry that we came out with on the Super Caliber. But we know and we recognize that the vehicular weight of the e-bike is still a little bit more than a traditional bike, and so we wanted to compensate for that in a couple of different ways.
Right.
And one of those is reach. So we lengthen the reach on average 15 millimeters per size. We also slacken the head tube angle to 1.5 degrees to 67.5 degrees. And complementing that, we put a 120 millimeter fork on there with 2.4 tires to really give it that capability when the terrain gets rowdier or you head downhill.
Right. Yeah, that's what I like too, is that, you do have, the efficiency of the Super Caliber frame, but we've expanded the capability of the bike through the geometry and the fork to give it, a wider range of usage for riders. So that's pretty sweet too. And range. So range with this system is still pretty awesome, right?
Yeah, typically when you think smaller motor, smaller battery, you think less range, but that's actually not the case. We typically are finding in the middle mode, there are 3 modes in the Fazua system. In the middle mode, set up in kind of the average setting, you can get 1,000 meters of elevation and typically 50 kilometers of range, which is really, really good and really impressive for that average rider.
Right. Yeah, I think it's important to know, it's hard to gauge, right? Because it's all about the climbing and that. But I guess the note here is that you can get a lot of range with this, which is key to a lot of customers with that. So let's dive into now a little bit more on the spec, because again, I think there's some cool things there that we took from the Super Caliber. There's some things we added that work really well with an electric bike. Let's go through that, like things like the remote lockout. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so at the heart of Super Caliber was this dual remote system, dual remote lockout, so you could lock out the strut. We included that with our new drop lock remote, found also on the Top Fuel today, and that allows you to both lock out the strut and the fork at the same time, so preserving that efficiency when you need it.
Right, and what's nice, it's tucked in there really nice with the Fazua adjuster as well. So I think that's really cool. And we got to go for it, right? I mean, the 9.9 has a rigid post. That's kind of weird, right? I mean, what's the deal there, right?
Right. Good question, John. We recognize that those top end customers are looking for the lightest weight e-bike, and we wanted to deliver that at the top end. Certainly, you can add a dropper seat post to that, whether it's axis or a cable actuated remote.
Right.
On the 9.8 and lower levels, it comes stock with a dropper.
Right, but we're showing that bike can get just crazy light, and that makes a big difference there. A couple little things I don't think people will pick up unless we talk about. Let's talk about the hubs. What do we do there and why?
Yeah, so Bontrager has a technology called rapid drive hubs, and rapid drive is fairly significant, especially mated with the Fazua system. You actually get a high engagement rear hub that allows for a really direct power transfer. It's very quick in engaging the motor system. It pairs really well, and that's what we found during testing, was how efficient the two work together.
Awesome. Well, Chris, you're always good on these details. I think when you look at the bikes and you see all the spec by each model, you'll see they're really well thought out. But really, the heart of this whole thing is the Fazua system. And, when the Fazua system first came out, it really wasn't quite there yet. And we really, were liking the system, but we felt that it had to go somewhere further for it to be better for mountain bike. And for us, it was black pepper. When they came out with the black pepper tune on the Fazua, that was the piece that was missing that we really liked, that brought this bike in and made it a really great mountain bike application. So I want to dive into Fazua more, and I want to go directly to the people from Fazua. So I want to bring in Pascal and Matthias. They're our direct contacts with Fazua. They've done an awesome job with the system, and instead of us talking about it, hey guys.
Hey there.
So good to see you from beautiful Waterloo, Wisconsin here. Thanks for joining us, guys. Just go ahead and dive in with them a little bit more in detail about the Fazua system, because like I said, we're pretty excited about the new remote and about the black pepper tune, but I know there's more than that. So go ahead and let's hear live from you guys. What's cool about Fazua, and what do you want to talk about?
Hi together. Hey from Germany. We're a Munich-based company, so it's south of Munich, and that's where we are also dialing in. And first of all, I would like to say just a couple of words where Fazua is coming from. And one major thing is the name Fazua, and the name comes from a Bavarian slang word, which means, which is in Bavarian, Fazua, and that means go on. So it already starts with the name, and our company has been founded in 2013 by 5 young bikers, mountain bikers, and they wanted to develop a drive system which is exactly matching the rider's needs, the biker's needs. And with that drive system, they entered the market in 2017, and that's where our journey started, and where we now will dive a bit deeper.
Yeah, and I think we want to go another way. You already mentioned that, so we want to develop a sportive and a lightweight bike where the drive system is compact and really nicely integrated, so that the e-bike looks and also feels like a normal bike.
And with that nice integration, and also the lightweight, we have been mainly used in road and gravel usage. And as John already mentioned, with black pepper, we get one step closer to or not just a small step, a big step closer to the mountain biker's needs with the new software update. And one of the main topics has been the start response. We sharpened the start response. As you can see here, we have a slight offset of 50 degrees, and that is not just by default. That has a reason, because we wanted that the system is not nervous. It always has to feel stable, but still very reactive, because the rider needs to keep control about the bike and not the motor. And it has to be stable and easy to control in any situation. And in general, the drive system is starting super sensitive, because we want to have a natural feeling, as Pascal said. And that is mainly, or not mainly, but that is also done by the ramp up. And we set the ramp up for all different modes a bit differently. In breeze, the green mode, it has to be start super natural and smooth. And in rocket, you want to feel something. Here it reacts fast and accelerates powerful.
Yeah, after that, some feelings, how it feels to start with the bike. We want to talk about some hard facts. So our bike has, our motor has the maximum torque of 55 Newton meters and a maximum mechanical power of 300 watts. If you look at the Cadence range, you will see that with the torque of this 55 Newton meter, we reach 300 watts of mechanical power with about 55 Cadence. And we keep this stable till 125. So the whole range normal rider is pedaling. We keep our motor output very stable. And the maximum power, if you look at the different modes we have, so in the breeze mode, in the green mode, we have a mechanical power output of 100 watts. In the river mode, 210. And in the rocket mode, 250 watts power output. So but more than this maximum power output, the rider feels the relation between input and output power. And this relation, we call it support relation. That defines at which rider power the motor reaches its maximum power. So for example, in the green mode, so in the breeze mode, even if with a low rider power, you will reach the maximum power output of 100 watts. So it feels always like an easy tailwind. The blue mode, the river mode, is really progressive. So you need 310 watts of rider power till you reach the maximum of this 210 watts motor power. So it's really progressive and you need to put a lot of effort in that you get a lot of power back from the motor. That feels pretty great if you're going like on trails, on technical riding. And the rocket mode is not like a full throttle mode. So you need to put some effort in. So as you see in this animation, you need around 200, 210 watts of rider power till you reach the maximum motor power of 250 watts.
And the values Pascal mentioned are just our default values. And all these values can be adjusted to every rider's needs. Because for sure we know, especially in support relation, it's very much depending on how much power you can give into the system. And a small woman will be a bit different than a taller man or a very good trained person. And that's why we developed our toolbox software, where you can adjust everything according to your personal needs.
Yeah, and that's important that everyone can change it. So you don't have to go to the dealer, that the dealer can change anything. So the customizer is available for every person. If you look into the software, you can see here in the customizer, we have an easy and an advanced setting. In the easy setting, you don't need any technical understanding. It's just an easy question where you can answer. Like in the max power, you can decide between eco or a performance mode. And then the whole riding behavior is changing to your needs. Also, we have an advanced setting. So in the advanced setting, everyone who feels like more expert can change every value we talked about. So the max power, the support relation, and the ramp up for every mode. So you can change the max power. You see directly how many mechanical watts you will have. You can change the support relation and also the ramp up, so the aggressiveness when you start. And you see it directly in the animation below the slider, what's happening with your riding behavior.
So with Pascal explained you a bit on the customize, and we wanted, as we said in the very beginning, we wanted to develop a system for riders. And as we know, every rider has different needs. We don't want that the rider needs always to go to the dealer. He can do it by himself at home, goes on his home run, and adjusts the values how he needs. And we as Fazua, we put even more features into the toolbox software, because, for example, software updates, that is a super important thing, and we integrate that feature into the toolbox because we are, as a company, we're constantly working on improving our software, improving our product to match ourselves needs and your needs. And that's why you can do it by yourself at home. And for sure, we know, as you could see in the animation, with the cables sometimes that it can be better. And that's why we are working on an app that you can do all the features over the air. And in Q2 this year, we will proudly present the Fazua app. Stay tuned, because it's a really, really good update for the whole product. Pascal.
Yeah, and now we're on the topic like connectivity. That's really important for us, and also for future for us. And for every rider who is interested in more data from his ride, he can use the Fazua Rider app. And also we improved our connectivity functionalities, and as a first step this year. So you can show the data on different variables and bike computers like the Garmin or like Wahoo and some others. And there you can see the power, you can see Cadence, and yeah, that makes the Fazua system also a mobile power meter.
That it's fitting super well to all the riders riding the e-caliper, because it's for cross-country riders, for sportive riders, and they can then see their input on, or their values on the screen. And here we are also going even one step further in the very close future. It's again in Q2. We will launch a Garmin CIQ data field, where you will, as you can see in the animation, see all relevant data, what are important to see from a mountain bike system.
So like state of charge, the assist mode, and the motor power, and also the range you have left. Yeah, and when we talk about improvements, one improvement you have already seen in the video, our new BX remote. So we have improved our remote. That looks more nice. It's getting pretty small, and its touch interface is so intuitive and modern to swipe through the remotes. And it's also possible now to change or adjust the touch sensitivity to every rider's needs.
That can be also done for in the Toolbox app.
Yes.
And another huge improvement is that together with the Remote BX and the brand new Battery 250X, which will be also delivered in all the e-calipers, you have now a wake up from functionality. So you can wake up through the remote, the battery, and start the system to go for a ride. And yeah, that have been the important features of our system, and all the big news in which are coming with the e-caliper. I hope our short presentation was nice for you. If you have any more questions left in the media kit, you will find the contact of a colleague of us, and please just get in touch with us and ask any questions you have. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Awesome, you guys. Thank you very much, Matthias and Pascal, for that. That was perfect, because you just hit on the highlights of the key things. And like I said before, I think the three things that I really love about the Fazua system is the black pepper tune is spot on for mountain bike and really well done. The tunability, I think when people get a hold of the app, are going to really appreciate the simplicity of making change. So whether you're like totally into every aspect of tuning or just want to try something, it's probably the best app I've seen for being able to get there. Really, really well done. And thank you for the remote and for the automatic starting with the remote. Big upgrade. I think that's something that everybody was waiting for. So those three things I just think put the Fazua system out there. So thank you very much. And if anybody has questions, remember they can also go directly to Matthias and Pascal. So thank you guys.
You're welcome.
All right, you bet. So from there, I want to switch gears a little bit, and I want to go to how we get this bike to market. And with that, we use our professional athletes that in a lot of cases are also our testers. And what they do is they take the bike through the paces. This bike in particular, with XC, we had the perfect rider in mind. And one of my favorite riders, Payson, who is a rider for us, long time, been also a tester for us all the way through the Super Caliber, through the new Top Fuel, and with the E Caliber. He's been helping us for a long time, and we've really appreciated that. He's really good at articulating the feel and the sensations of the bike so that we can act on that and make changes and do things to the bike to make them good. So, Payson, how's it going? How are things in California?
Doing great. Yeah, thanks for having me today.
Great seeing you. Payson, I think the best thing would be to kind of go through a little bit of your experience with the bike, because I think the experience that you had with the bike really does a good job of kind of showing how the Fazua system, the E-Caliber system, how they work together in an XC environment. So go ahead and run us through that, because I think it's a really great story.
Yeah, thanks, John. So like you alluded to, I've had the pleasure of riding and testing a lot of Trek bikes over the years, but I have to say this new E-Caliber ride experience, when I got to ride it for a few days this past fall, was one of the most striking and eye-opening bike experiences I've had throughout my entire career. Over the course of 3 days, we shot some of the photos and video that you saw earlier in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, my home area. It's terrain that I'm very, very familiar with. But thanks to the E-Caliber, I got to enjoy it in a completely new, surprising way. I think day 3 in particular was probably the most memorable. We did a ride that started at 12,000 feet, so almost 4,000 meters. The Rocky Mountains are very, very high. The riding is incredibly challenging, a lot of it above tree line, very little oxygen. And so we did this ride up this mountain to this beautiful mountain lake at 13,000 plus feet, well over 4,000 meters. And for most people, this trail is a hike. Most people don't even mess with trying to ride it. I've ridden it before on a more traditional bike. And as a professional rider, I'm a relatively fit person. And even so, this ride on a traditional bike is so hard, so challenging, just leaves you exhausted. It has a nice reward at the top, but you really have to really, really earn it. On the E-Caliber, it was a completely different ride experience. There's a section in particular on your way up this ride that for a kilometer is an average of 20% grade. And because it's so high and it's technical and so steep, traditionally that's been a hike-a-bike for me. Not with the E-Caliber. We just scampered right up this thing. Not only did I ride the whole thing, but I did it at a really low heart rate. I think I was in endurance to recovery zone, 120 beats per minute, 130 beats per minute, instead of a total race effort, which it typically was. And one of the really nice things about that is when I got up to that beautiful look-off point in the mountain lake at the top, there's some really fun technical features. And for the first time, I felt comfortable playing around on those technical features because I was able to get there without feeling totally exhausted. You definitely felt like you were still out there on a challenging ride, but it just was more accessible. And it made me realize that this E-Caliber bike had the potential to create that opportunity for riders of all backgrounds and all abilities. As a professional rider, I was able to do that ride typically, but a lot of other people, like I said, would steer clear of it. With the E-Caliber, anyone and everyone could go enjoy that ride. Going back quickly to that really steep portion on the climb up, one thing that struck me immediately was the rapid engagement that we heard about from our friends Matthias and Pascal at Fazua. In the past, when I've ridden e-bikes, there's that lag. If you stop and put a foot down on a steep climb or in a technical section, there's that lag when you have to get going again before the motor really kicks in. With the E-Caliber, that is almost instantaneous. And so I did have to put a foot down at a couple points on this challenging climb, but it really didn't matter. I was able to get up and get going again without any issue. The other thing that really, really struck me about this bike is that once we were headed back down this big mountain, the bike's handling was just so much more what I'm used to in regards to traditional bike riding. It doesn't feel heavy or unwieldy, sort of that where you feel like you're along for the ride, which can be the case with other e-bikes that I've ridden. This felt like a more traditional handling bike. It's light, it's nimble, and just such a wonderful ride experience, kind of the best of both worlds. And I really came away from my ride experience with the eCaliber thinking, despite the fact that I get paid to suffer and work really hard and pedal hard and focus on fitness and all that sort of thing, I would love to own one of these eCaliber bikes, because you don't always want to completely dig yourself into a hole of fatigue on these rides. And I could just see that even someone like myself could really enjoy the benefits of this bike, let alone, the scores of other people from different backgrounds that more obviously could enjoy the bike. So I really, really enjoyed my time getting to ride this eCaliber. And personally, I'm really hoping to get my hands on one at some point in the near future. So that's about all I got for my little piece here, but I'm going to throw it back to John. I know he's got lots more details to dig in with y'all for.
Right on, Payson. Thank you very much. And I think another thing too that we talked about before too was how a bike like this could even work in for a pro rider as being kind of that bike, for your off days or for a day where you're just doing an active recovery, right? It's a great bike for that too. So even for somebody like yourself, even though you're a tester and doing this to give us an evaluation, I think you also found maybe it fits in even to a pro rider's quiver, if they had the ability to have something like this in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the idea of being able to do the ride I just described, a very high elevation, very high mountain ride as a recovery day, I mean, that would be a game changer. Being able to, on one of my easy days, go up there and have a picnic with my girlfriend or something and not have it take most of a day and just leave us exhausted is a really intriguing concept for sure.
Yeah, right. Well, again, Payson, thank you very much. Payson's in California training right now. He's from Durango, Colorado originally. Again, part of the Orange Seal team, but they're sponsored by Trek, and he's part of our test system. So thank you very much, Payson, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. So right on. All right, so from there, let's dive a little bit more into the engineering aspect of this bike. Excuse me. There's some really cool engineering that went into this bike that is part of what we developed from our Super Caliber project and bringing it in there. And the key there really is the ISO strut. And the ISO strut is something we're really excited about because it really does a lot of things that we couldn't find from a traditional shock configuration. And I want to take us to California again, to our engineer R&D for suspension, Jason Lindenberg, who was involved in the original development of this rear strut, and dive into a little of the detail of that and give us a little insight of what's cool about the ISO strut system. Jason, how's it going?
Good. Thanks, John.
Good to see you. Take it away.
You too. All right. So, as we talked about this, when we kicked off this eCaliber project, the focus was really trying to minimize weight and provide that speed and efficiency. It's all about covering more ground more quickly without wearing you out. And how do we do that? Well, ISO strut was the clear choice. It allows us to reduce the parts and overall weight similar to a hardtail, but still maintain that control and comfort benefit that you get out of a full suspension system. So what is the ISO strut? It's essentially a shock that is integrated into our frame structure. This was co-developed with Fox for the Super Caliber platform. It took us about 2 years to fully develop, and it utilizes essentially a fully serviceable and tunable shock. So on the tunability side, you have basically a standard air spring that allows for both setup pressure and volume adjustment to change that spring progression. It also has external damper adjustments for rebound and your compression, lock, and open modes. So as we talked about that, in the E-caliber, we have about 60 millimeters of travel from a 32.5 millimeter stroke shock inside the isostrut. That ends up being a pretty low, about 1.8 overall leverage ratio, which means even this small packaging shock offers plenty of support, especially being able to offer a super firm hardtail-like lockout. So for those long road climbs or the very fast and smooth sections of trail, you have that kind of ultimate hardtail efficiency. But then you are able to open it up for the rough, kind of techie trail sections. Incorporating Fazua with isostrut, it basically allows you to get to the dirt quicker and cover more, miles or kilometers in the same amount of time. Within the isostrut system itself, we kind of have a system of redundant mechanisms to keep everything in line and keep that suspension working properly, even under the additional kind of power and torque element that the Fazua system creates. You have the linear stanchion bushings, similar to what you'd find in your suspension fork, that provides smooth and responsive suspension movement, even under loads. You also have these anti-rotation bushings that align with the stanchion slot and keep the whole rear triangle aligned and stiff to keep that power that both you and the Fazua system are generating directly into the rear wheel. The rear end of the bike, of the frame itself, is a pivotless rear end. Again, this reduces the overall kind of parts and weight of the system. It utilizes flexing seat stays with a very flat and wide section. The vertically flat portion kind of provides that vertical bending that's necessary for the smooth suspension movement. And being very wide allows for a good lateral stiffness to limit any of that side-to-side flex and movement. For the E-caliber, we actually use a unique, extra robust rear end that's designed specifically to handle the kind of unique demands of a Fazua-equipped trail bike. So that's kind of the overall tech that goes into our isostrut system. With that, I'll hand it back over to John, and we can dig more into some other pieces of the E-caliber.
Jason, thank you very much. A lot of hard work went into that project, so appreciate all that. But appreciate the input on that. And I think what we'll do now is take that information that Jason gave us, and we're going to flip live to a studio with our R&D developing engineer for this project, Ted Alsop. And Ted will then walk us through some of the particular tuning and setup things with the shock, as well as some additional features with the Fazua system. Ted, how's it going?
Good, John. How are you doing?
Right on. Great. Take it away, Ted.
Cool. So as many of you have talked about so far, one of the coolest parts about the Fazua system is just how easy it is to remove the drive pack. So the whole motor and battery come out with just one simple lever. On the bottom of the down tube, we engage the lever, and the drive pack just drops right out. On the top of the drive pack, you will see the charge port for easy charging. Once the drive pack is on the charger, you can expect 80% charge in just an hour and 45 minutes and a full charge in 3 hours. With the drive pack out, you're reducing your frame weight by 2.9 kilograms, and you can put in the down tube cover. As has been brought up, the down tube cover does have storage built in, so you can put whatever you want in here: jacket, beers, burrito, and that just snaps in place just like the motor. So we'll go ahead and put the battery back in here. So with the drive pack in place and the new BX remote, the system powers on with just a nice press of the central button on the remote. Once the system is powered on, the touch interface makes it really easy to change mode. So tap up or swipe up on the remote to go to the river or the rocket mode, and then swipe down to go to breeze mode. A extra long press on the central button will engage the rain mode. So in the rain mode, the touch sensors are disengaged, and then you're changing modes with a press of the central button. And then an extra long hold turns the rain mode off again. One thing I really like about this remote is that the touch features all work just fine with a glove on. So another really cool thing that Jason brought up is the suspension setup. So we worked quite hard on the ISO strut to make it very tunable and easy to adjust. Every super caliber includes E-caliber includes air volume spacers in the box. The smallest green spacer comes pre-installed in the strut, and then the orange middle and the purple largest spacer come in the box. Those allow you to change the air spring progressivity of this strut to help you dial in the suspension feel for your particular ride style. Also in the box is a suspension setup card. The lower leverage ratio of the E-caliber means you have a much lower air spring pressure in the strut, but it also means that the accuracy of the sag is especially important. So with this little card, it has a list of air spring pressures here for your rider weight, and then a nice little indicator here that goes on to the down tube to show you the right amount of sag. The final really cool feature on the strut that I wanted to draw your attention to is the numbered rebound. This is something we worked with Fox on, and that is to have simple numbers on your red rebound dial. This makes setting up the strut super, super easy. And I think that about covers it.
All right, Ted, thank you very much for that review on there. Ted was, very involved in the development with Jason, so that's why we got the two experts here on the product, both from the frame and the rear shock, because really for IsoStrut, it was about a frame and shock development. Those two had to go hand in hand to make it optimized. So appreciate that, Ted, and thanks for your feedback there. So from there, thanks. We will now go to the portion of the program where we're going to take questions. And so the idea here was that we gave you a lot of information over the last period of time here, which has gone very quickly, to now give you a chance with this information to ask us questions while you have the experts here and available. So for this, we're going to go to that. And remember, you need to be logged into YouTube through Google in order to be able to get questions through to us. And we'll take those questions, and then we have our product manager, Ross Russian, doing an amazing job of bringing those up for us so that we can take a look and see what kind of questions you've had coming up with that. So let's see. First question is, why do all sizes show the same standover height? Chris, the standover height on the E-caliber.
Yeah, so
talk about that a little bit.
Yep, exactly. So all sizes actually use the same rear triangle, and thus the position of the strut and the rear triangle force the standover to be in the same position. That's not unlike many bikes, frankly speaking.
Okay, but still plenty of standover. Plenty of standover. Okay. All right, let's see what other questions we have there. Can the bike be ridden without the electric assist system? Ted, what do you think on that one? Can the system be ridden without the Fazua system, and will it be an enjoyable experience?
Yes, it is very easy to ride without the system. The drive pack comes right out, and then what that does is that disengages the motor. So inside the drive pack is the battery and the motor. So when you pull out the drive pack, you've just taken the motor and the battery out of the system, allowing the cranks to move quite freely. It's recommended that when the drive pack is out, the down tube cover goes back in. So this is just a very lightweight aluminum extrusion that then fits in the place of the drive pack. And just like that, you have yourself a normal push bike.
I think the thing that is key there is Fazua is totally different than all other systems that are out there in that the motor drive unit and the battery incorporate into one piece. So you basically have a traditional, BB system in your bike, so that when you take that out, you basically have what is a typical bike. And even what I like about Fazua too is even when the system is off and are in a different mode, your pedaling resistance is very, very low on this system, which is also, I think, very unique to the Fazua system. So something that we really like about that. Okay, so is the tuning of the ISO strut different than the Super Caliber? Ted, I think this is another good one for you, because maybe expand upon the tuning of this, and then also, could you hit on those spacers a little deeper and maybe talk about why a rider would change a spacer? What kind of situation would make that, an ideal change that the rider would appreciate?
Yeah, for sure. So the strut tuning is the same, but there is a new suspension setup card for the E-Caliber. So we are recommending a slightly higher air pressure in the strut than what we recommend on the Super Caliber. As you mentioned, John, the bike comes with air volume spacers. These are the same kind of thing we're used to on forks, so tokens. And what they're going to do is they're going to increase the progressivity of the air spring. We found through testing that the green spacer was the best all-around fit for most riders, and that's what comes inside the strut out of the box. But included with every E-Caliber are the purple and the orange spacers. The orange is our middle spacer. It's a 0.2 spacer, and the purple is the largest at 0.3. And what these are going to do is drastically increase the progression of the air spring in the strut. So if you like a more racy, aggressive ride, the purple or orange spacer could be a good fit for you. If you want something a bit plusher and a bit more all around, the green spacer that comes in is a really good starting point. You can also run no air volume spacers at all to get the largest air spring volume. So technically there's 4 different settings you can do with the strut. Another really cool thing about the system is that you can get these air spring volume spacers out without removing the strut from the carriage. So the forward lock ring comes off the strut, and that allows the damper shaft to come forward where the spacers are. So the idea is that a user can make this change themselves without going to a shop and without going into the internals of the strut itself.
Awesome, Ted. I think actually that is a great segue to another question that we have, which is, can retailers service the ISO strut, or does it have to be sent to Fox? And maybe Jason, can you take that one?
Sure, John. Yeah, so similar story to the Super Caliber. With the E-Caliber, the ISO strut is fully serviceable at your Trek retailer. As far as the kind of standard oil bath and seal servicing, it's using all standard parts and parts that can be acquired by your local Trek dealer. So yes, it is fully serviceable, just like any other suspension shock or fork that you'd like to have worked on.
Right, I think that's key, Jason, because I think a lot of people, when they see that, see proprietary, right? And that's something different, but it's really not proprietary in the internal workings. All that is standard Fox stuff. So if you're just doing your normal maintenance tuning, all those types of things, it's just standard Fox service pieces, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so another question that we had was about the max weight allowable for the E-Caliber. Chris, what are we looking at there for max weight rider?
Actually, we look at it as a total weight system. So it's basically, 300 pounds. I don't have the kilos right offhand. Both rider and bike weight combined.
Yeah. Okay. So 300-pound rider for that. And Jason, maybe I'll come back. No, actually, let's go to another one for Ted here. How does the 60 millimeter rear shock handle the added weight of the E-Caliber? Is 60 millimeters enough? What do you think about that one, Ted?
Through our testing, we found that the low leverage rate of the IsoStrut system really takes really good advantage of that 60 millimeters. Like I said, we're recommending a higher air spring pressure for the slightly heavier frame than the Super Caliber. But the key to getting the most out of that travel is the whole system. So the flexing of the seat stays and the low linear leverage ratio of the IsoStrut itself. That allows it to really handle really handle impacts and make the most out of that limited travel.
Yeah, right on. I think we found that with the Super Caliber as well, that really it rides, way above the number. I think people see a number, but what we're finding is that when people ride the Super Caliber even, that it rides way above that number as far as what you're getting in suspension compliance and feel of the bike. It's just the system is what causes the compliance, not just the amount of travel in there. So good one than that. And actually got one here for Matthias and Pascal. Is there a walk assist mode with the Fazua system?
No, on our system we do not have walk assist because we wanted to have the remote BX as intuitive as possible and as easy as possible. And as the general weight of the bike is so light that you could easily also carry the bike, we removed that to have the remote more intuitive than if we would have it in addition to that. That's why, we think with that kind of bike, with that weight of bike, a walk assist is definitely not needed.
Right, and I'm going to definitely jump in and agree with you on that, because one of the things that we found with walk assist is it's all about the vehicle weight. How heavy is the bike? And these bikes are significantly lighter than a traditional big motor, big battery system. So you're not going to be struggling to push it up a steep incline. If you're struggling to push up a traditional bike, then you'll struggle, but in general, there's no real disadvantage to not having the walk assist with this light style of bike. So, all right, so let's go to another question. When are these actually available? So I'm going to go ahead and jump on that one. 9/8s are available immediately on February 25th, and want to emphasize that we do have an embargo date for this, so you are getting pre-information to the launch date, very typical for these media launches. So the embargo date is February 25th. February 25th is when you can release your information to your followers and give them all this detail. So the 9/8s will be available right then. The 9/6 and 9/9 will be available in March, but we'll be running retailer back orders from that. So what we're going to be doing is having the 9/8, then the other bikes you will be able to back order and get in March. All right, so what kind of extra resistance does the Fazua drive unit add? No, it's pretty minimal, but do you have a figure in watts for with and without the motor fitted? Pascal, Matthias, what do you think on that one? The resistance that the drive unit adds, do you have a number on that? Is there a wattage number?
We do have a number on it, and we test that number on every drive system which is produced in our production facilities. The number is around about 10 watts, so really pretty minimal. Because a bad mounted press fit bottom bracket, it has even more resistance than 10 watt, for example, or too less tire pressure has also more resistance, or there you're also losing more power than 10 watts. So it's just 10 watts, and which can even be reduced a tiny bit with removing the motor. But 10 watts is with motor installed and power off, or above 25k or 20 miles per hour. So pretty nothing.
It's pretty. I can tell you from experience riding the system with the motor turned off and with the motor out of the system, it feels like a regular bike. I mean, if there's resistance in your system on a traditional bike, that's about the same as on this bike. It's pretty amazing how low the resistance is. So another one, range extender. What's the deal with a range extender for this bike? Is it not available? Chris?
Yeah.
What's the situation with range extenders? That is getting more popular.
Yeah, great question. The beauty of the Fazua system that we liked is that the battery is actually really small, and I don't have the battery with me right here, but this is the supplemental cover. but literally the battery is, about this big, and you can actually carry one in your backpack really easily if you wanted to go for an extended tour, extended ride. Right. I did that several times testing, wanting to go for that epic ride. You can carry a small battery in your backpack. It's very convenient. And then that allows you to carry your water bottle, on your bike, where you typically wouldn't be able to with most range extender systems.
Right. So. Right on. All right, so let's see. That's a good question. Can these run 100 millimeter forks? So Ted, the bike geometry, if we are speccing a 120 fork, the geometry on the bike is designed around that because it is a different geometry than the super caliber. What if you do want to run a 100 millimeter fork? What's gonna happen to that bike? And I'm guessing it has something to do with the BB.
Yeah, the main difference is going to be a bottom bracket drop. So expect 7 to 10 millimeters of bottom bracket drop with a 100 mil fork over the 120. Right. So we definitely optimize the geometry. We always had a 120 fork in mind when we laid this out. This isn't just a 120 fork on a super caliber. This is all new E-caliber geometry around the 120 fork, but you could run a 100 mil fork if you liked. Probably would recommend going to a shorter crank, especially if you're in a very technical riding area where bottom bracket height is a big concern.
Right on. That's what I thought. How about tire size, Mr. Drews? So what's the largest tire size that can fit in this bike?
Yep, so we found the sweet spot for this category bike was that 2.4 tire. Gave you enough grip for climbing and cornering ability. And so in the front, obviously most forks are 2.6 compatible tire size. And then the rear, it's 2.4 is a max tire that you can fit. Obviously, tire size varies by vendor, meaning that you want to check, if you're putting a different branded tire on there, you want to check to make sure there's appropriate clearances.
Right,
to the frame.
That's a good point. So. But what do we spec? So what size do they come with?
Yeah, we come with a 2.4 tire spec.
Front and rear?
Yep.
Front and rear, okay. And another good question, will there be trail or enduro models using this platform? That's a good one as well. I mean, I'm going to actually take this one a bit. I think that, one thing that we see with the kind of the market today is that there's kind of the big motor, big battery systems and the small motor, small battery systems. And we see that the big motor, big battery systems work really well on the longer travel bikes with more suspension because the input and the amount of support that those big motor, big battery systems gives you really overrides the amount of travel so that you can run pretty much any travel with those systems and still be able to pedal the bike really efficiently. What's different about this system is that we're trying to get now more into a parallel to a traditional or acoustic bike with these small motor, small battery systems. And we're starting here in kind of what we think is a sweet spot of an area that's really popular right now. It's been called side country, different types of things, but it's really that XC trail riding style that we think works really well with a lightweight bike. The small motor, small battery systems could expand into other areas, but that's our philosophy for now, is that when you want longer travel, you want something like that, we go with a big motor, big battery system, and more in this XC system. We think the small motor, small battery system works perfectly. So good question there. As another question just came up, battery charger, estimated charge time. Chris, what are we including with the bike?
Yep, so battery charger is included. I believe it's a 4 amp charger. So basically what we're seeing is a 3 hour for a full charge or only an hour and 45 minutes for 80% charge. So really quick, fast charging, Right,
so you can turn around pretty quick. Awesome. All right, so another one about the Bontrager bits tool roll are similar for the storage space when the motor is removed. That is a great comment. We don't have anything planned as of today, but I would think our tool roll would fit in there.
Yeah,
perfectly,
that's a good
right?
idea.
I mean,
you can fit just about anything in here. We were fooling around with sausages, sandwiches,
right?
Soda bottles, cans. Just about anything fits in here.
Right. So I mean, actually, our current bit system would fit in there fine, and that would keep it from rattling around and making noise. But something that's bigger that would roll into there. That's a great comment. Maybe we'll take a look at that. But for now, we're going to leave it up to the the decision of the rider of what they want to take advantage of there, because it is a pretty good sized space. So if you're going on a big ride and you need to take a burrito and a couple beers, that's a whole different choice you can make. So, all right, so that's most of the questions that we have. It's been really great having everybody attend our virtual launch. I want to thank everybody that's participated today. Thank you for taking the time to help us launch this bike into the market. And I just want to also just reinforce this is an initial peek that you're getting on this product. The launch date for this is February 25th, so that's our embargo date. So we ask that nothing gets into either social media or even print copy that would be available until after that date. And that date is at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time on the 25th, where everything is available. So once again, thanks for coming and spending some time with us in Waterloo, Wisconsin today. We hope you enjoyed what we presented and you found it very interesting. If you have any further questions or follow-up, you can contact the people directly on this seminar today or contact Travis Ott directly, who supports the mountain bike marketing for that. So have a great rest of your day, stay healthy, and hope to see you in person again real soon. Thanks.